Hi everyone, in this short video tutorial we will delve into understanding and exploring what a slicing software like Kirimoto has to offer. To better comprehend what we will see, it is important to know what a slicing software is. A slicing software is a program that translates a given 3D model into code that a machine like a 3D printer or a CNC machine can comprehend to faithfully reproduce a model. What sets Kirimoto apart from a normal slicing software is that it is browser-based, accessible directly from the browser for free, without no need to install any program. To open it, just click on the first link in the Google search, and once the program is loaded, we find ourselves in front of the interface. As you can see, Kirimoto's interface is very minimal, but let's take a closer look. On the left, we can find options related to the program, for the user interface and for entering basic data. On the right, we find options more related to the printer and the type of print we want to achieve. But let's dive into the details. Firstly, we have Setup. Here you can select the type of machine you will be using. In this case, we will use a 3D printer, Acreality Ender 3. So let's select it, scroll down, and we will find the preset settings ready for us. Once selected, click Save and proceed. After Machine, we find Preferences. Here, you can modify the program interface and add various options. For second, we find Files, from which we can import a 3D model from our computer by clicking Import. Here, for convenience, I have one ready. We select it, we click Open, and as you can see, the file is imported into the program. Moving on, we find View, which allows us to see the model from various perspectives, or even move it or delete it in case of necessity. Continuing, we find Start, which is what allows us to perform the slicing and export the file. Finally, there's Render, which lets us change how we view the model within the program. And lastly, Tools, which allow us to make slight modification to the model within the program. Moving on the right column, we find the whole option related to the printer and the printing methods we want to use. As the first option, we find Layers, which allow us to generally change the height of the layers or even modify the thickness of the perimeter of our print. So we can take this number and change it. The program will act accordingly. It started at 5, but we can, if you want something thinner, set it to 2, or even go beyond and set it to 10. Moving on, we find Base, which allow us to modify the parameters related to what the printer does concerning various elements of the print. Here we can notice that it allows us to change the temperature, for example, of the print bed or the nozzle, but also the cooling, based on the filament we want to use. Going on, we find Infill, which is essentially the filling of the object we will print. We can modify which infill the printer will use, but also its density. Density is adjusted with a number ranging from 0 to 1, where 0 is 0 density and 1 is 100%, so 0.5 represents 50%. Moving on, let's look at the supports. This is because a model of this type, for example, cannot have so many elements printed in midair or without support. So the programs, with our parameters, will create supports useful for achieving our goals. Here we can also modify, for example, the density of our supports. Continuing, we find Output, which is essentially a recap of what our printer will do. So, we review the temperature, but also the speeds of the various moving parts, but also, for example, the data related to the infill and the perimeter of our object. Finally, we found Expert, which presents us with much more specific data to consider when making a very specific and detailed use of our printer. Finally, with Profile, there is the possibility to save the parameters we have just created. Here, I had already created a bunch of them, but in this case I will choose a name, for example 2, and click Save. Finally, how do we create a file to import in our printer? Simply go to Start, click Slice, wait for the program to load. This will offer us a preview in which we can see more in detail the construction of the object. And finally, clicking Export will open another window that allows us to change various values, such as the name, shows us the size of the file, and the time the file will take to print. After adjusting everything, we can click Download and the file will be saved in our downloads. For this tutorial, it's everything. Thanks for watching, and for more videos like this, follow JBD Tube.